anybody tomorrow, my personal preference would be that it's Bill Gates. This fucker, how many times do you buy a computer from him and within a year and a half, it just turns to shit? You try to download basic programs onto it and it doesn't function. And then you end up hammering at it and losing your fucking mind. Your hair is turning gray. Bill Gates needs to be deported to some country in sub-Saharan Africa where he'll be hunted like some sort of, rare animal. And I don't care how that sounds. Bill Gates he's invented software, and whoever cooperates with him, I don't know, IBM, I have a Toshiba, they use his software. It's basically designed to break down at some point and drive a person nuts. I don't care if it makes money. It's torture. It's torture. If fucking Bernie Sanders wants to go chase after anybody in American corporate culture, it should be Bill Gates and his piece of shit software. And that's all I have to say about him. You know what? All you Apple freaks, I think you finally made your point. This stuff is intolerable. Intolerable. I'm here on my tablet. I can't get the tablet keyboard to work either. So, with that aside, I did want to talk about a few topics that I don't even know if I can remember now, because everything I wrote down was on the fucking PC that I have to go take to the repair person tomorrow. I've been trying to defragment it. And now after, just restarting it over and over again today, I think I actually broke the hard drive. So I don't even know how functional this channel is going to be for the next few weeks until I can either buy a different computer, which I'm not looking forward to, or get this one repaired, which who knows what sort of job they can do on it. I mean, it's not like I've been keeping it in superb shape. But that's enough about technology. So anyway, the Mueller indictment, we're talking about something that could have all of the importance or have none of the importance. Now, if Mueller comes out and he starts with an indictment of somebody like Roger Stone or Jared Kushner or Michael Flynn, I'm not sure what sort of reaction we're going to get from the right wing, but we're going to get some sort of ridiculous ecstasy from people on the left. And to be honest with you, I don't know why they would think that, because if they've been trying to pretend for the past few months that they're in favor of journalistic freedom, and Roger Stone, first of all, is a journalist. Jared Kushner, I think they would have cause to celebrate because he's somebody who's directly, whereas Stone is just a personal friend of Donald Trump. Jared Kushner is a he's a married relative of Donald Trump, married to his daughter. And then with Michael Flynn, I think that would be for them a scenario where they've gained literally nothing, because Flynn was already fired by the Trump administration. There's very, very little likelihood that he's going to rat anybody else out, because I don't know what they can convict him of that is really going to stick. And for those of you that are thinking that, the vultures are circling, they're going to zoom in on the Trump administration, remember that next week, if these indictments come through against the Trumps, you're just going to get an outpouring of rage from a lot of his supporters that have been watching all this crap happen with Uranium One and with Podesta, and what was that other thing that happened? The Russia dossier, one of the biggest stitch-ups in the history of making up lies. In the history of lying about shit, the Russian dossier has to go up there with Bigfoot and with that skeleton that they found buried in England somewhere. I think it's called Piltdown Man. It is such a piece of shit account of whatever the fuck happened in Moscow, the whole Pissgate thing. And the fact that people actually want to believe it, it shows that these are people that have become so desperate to validate their prejudices and their idea of the way the country is supposed to be, that they'll sacrifice all integrity. It's worse. And I'm careful saying this. This is worse than anything that the Bush Republicans did with WMD and trying to get people into war. This is worse because it's even more transparently false. Because at one time, Saddam Hussein did try to obtain nuclear weapons. It's documented. He tried to obtain nuclear weapons at some point. The only question is whether the instance that happened in the 2000s was fabricated or not. The Russia dossier is a document that in the with the goal of removing somebody as president, seeks to bring America into a global conflict with the other major nuclear power, or one of the two major nuclear powers left in the world, which is or three. China would be the other one. Who knows what these people will do once they realize, for example, that there's not much to gain from getting into a war with Russia. Is it not possible that they would do the same thing with China? I mean, who wants to sacrifice a whole generation of young people and resources and the energy of this country to fighting China or Russia? It seems to me like a huge waste of time. There's better ways to compete with them and not get into these global conflicts. And I do think you have to compete with them. I'm not trying to say that we should be friends with either Russia or China, but this cannot stand. This is ridiculous. And the fact that they try to make the Trump-Russia dossier into some real piece of evidence, it shows just how low the bar has been set. I always like to go back to 1996. Okay, those of you that think that this president, Donald Trump, could be indicted should know that the bar was set so low when I was a kid by President Clinton. Not just because of the Lewinsky investigation. The Lewinsky investigation was hardly the most serious thing. He was taking envelopes full of money from a donor named John Huang, who was a Chinese government operative. It's a fact. He was taking them in the Oval Office during election season, and he was openly collaborating with bankers that were Indonesians that had huge ties to China. It was not even, this is not something that is conjecture or is a smear campaign. These were things he was forced to return the money. He was forced to return the money. And now we're going to try to stitch up President Trump or his son-in-law, who I'm not a fan of, or one of these other characters in administration, whether it's Manafort, who's, with all due respect, is probably the most deserving person in this case, and other people. They're trying to stitch them up and claim that they manipulated an election in order to bring to power a lackey of Vladimir Putin. Well, how can you say that Donald Trump would be any more of a lackey than Barack Obama, who literally did nothing to stop Putin from doing whatever he wanted in Ukraine, getting involved in Syria? This is a joke. The Democrats are now trying to pretend that they're the national security party, and the Republicans too. There's two parties that allowed national security to degrade into a fuckfest during the Obama administration, and they're now pretending that they're the responsible party. So I'm honestly tired of it. I think most Americans are tired of it. And those of you that think, yeah, tomorrow that's the end of the Trump administration. Well, I just talk to you about one of the scenarios, and that's the best case scenario for the Democrats. The best case scenario is that they're going to cause a popular sense of revulsion because they'll be indicting somebody over a crime that they can't even define. How can you define how Roger Stone or Flynn or anybody else, how did they help Russia win in the election? There's virtually no there's no material proof there. There's no material proof there. If anything, there's just indications that there was interactions between them. But there's always been interactions between foreign governments and people that are involved in campaigns. Okay, I've listened to things like that in the past, where Barack Obama, for example, went to Iraq and told the Iraqi government to forget about negotiating with George W. Bush about a troop withdrawal. Okay, if that's not colluding with a foreign government, I don't know what is. Telling him that, oh, you don't have to listen to this guy because I'm about to be president. And there's evidence that he did that with the Russians too during the 2008 election cycle and the transition period and all that. There is nothing that you can convict him of that has actual material consequences so far. That's what's so frustrating to me, beyond this technological cluster F that I have. And then the worst case scenario for the Democrats, you've been hearing in the news about the Podestas being possible targets for the probe. And if Manafort was to be the indictment person, what are the chances that he's going to be? Why wouldn't he roll over and blame the Podestas? What does he have to gain from blaming Donald Trump? Donald Trump has gone out in the media and said, yeah, I think Paul Manafort's a decent guy. The Podestas have been smearing the Trump campaign all along, and now it's been revealed that they've been partners with the Manaforts, with Manafort and his company. They've been partners with him. So who's been the dishonest one here? Who's been the dishonest one? It's the Democrats and John Podesta. And the media, they're trying to portray this, this is the flood, the floodgates are being opened on the Trump administration. Remember that these people, after showing through WikiLeaks that they are completely in the bag for the Clintons, what did they do? The Washington Post hired John Podesta as an opinion writer. They hired this gargoyle, this disgusting beast of a man, John Podesta. And I'm not talking about those salacious rumors about pedophilia, because that would only it would only be beyond the horrible work he's done as a chief of staff under both Clinton and Obama. I think he might have been just deputy chief of staff under Clinton. Where has he ever shown even an ounce of transparency? The Clinton administration, I think, at the end of their term, the end of Bill Clinton's term, John Podesta was the chief of staff, and that's when all those shady pardons happened. That's when people started alleging, these Clintons they're giving pardons for cash. So again, if this goes, it swings the other way, one of the Clinton lieutenants gets indicted. It doesn't matter who it is. Then we have kind of a different type of meltdown in the media. There's nobody in the United States of sound mind that actually thinks that an indictment of a Trump lieutenant will actually lead to, a return to normalcy here in America as the Democrats see it. If anything, people already have a persecution complex as far as Trump and the intelligence community. Why? Because he's criticized the intelligence community. And for those people, and I've worked with people like that think that the intelligence community are the good guys, remember, how many times have they gone wrong and allowed terrorist attacks to happen? I was just listening today to Molyneux talking about how the CIA knew that Syrian rebels had used chemical weapons. They knew in the past, and they didn't reveal it. They only revealed it, I think, in September, very matter-of-factly, as if it was something, as if they were mentioning somebody coming over for a glass of tea. And according to Molyneux, this was something the United States was aware of, that they had used chemical weapons. Do you realize that we were almost going to go to war with the Syrian government in order to help one of these rebel groups. I think that I for one think that, like I said back when the Syrian base bombing happened in the spring. Listen, I think that my plan, my idea, it might be the only way to get out of there. And you know, to be honest with you, I think it's settled down a bit. So I don't know if it's as bad as it was, but there has to be a total foreign withdrawal from Syria and a statement to both sides that we're not going to get you out of this mess. It doesn't matter who you are. I think Russia should withdraw too. I think it's time. I think that the United States, once we have destroyed ISIS, well, we can't stay there. There's nothing to be gained there. Sorry for the people whose country has basically been shot to shit, but you know, you had a huge hand in that too. The Syrian people have to know that, well, we're not going to participate in your civil war and then rebuild it. And it's not entirely their fault. I think plenty of these foreign countries like Qatar and Saudi Arabia and Iran and Russia and Turkey and you know, Israel, I think, has tangential relevance there. So you know, let's lump them in for argument's sake. Those are the countries that have to help rebuild Syria, not the United States of America. Okay, but insofar as the United States has funded some of these groups, yes, this is finally cause to say to the government, no, we don't trust you anymore. This is one of the reasons why people have started to support populist politicians like one Donald Trump. And I don't think it's going to stop. I think that those people that think, oh, an indictment tomorrow is going to bring America back to, you know, back to the pre-Trump years. We're going to have a president we respect or whatever. He's going to get impeached or you know, no. His party, for example, they know that there will be a traumatic uprising in its ranks from the primary voters, and they're just going to oust these rhinos, as they're called, these fake conservatives, and there's a lot of them, and they come of all stripes, and they're gonna replace them. And on the Democratic side, do you think people are going to forget all this Dem exit crap, where the DNC was basically hosing down their own people and you know, using these noise creators in order to drown out Bernie supporters? No, I think people they've become wizened up. They're getting organized. They're getting vocal about it, and that's about it for that. So the Mueller indictment and the JFK probe, you know, that indicates that maybe Lyndon Johnson had a hand in the Kennedy assassination. Those, I think, are proof that the U.S. government has completely they've overplayed their hand, and people are now they're wise to what's going on. They know that this is not you know, a state that is looking out for their well-being. The state is looking out for its own power and its control over the population. Now for a little more of a you know, lighter side, I think the NFL today. First of all, probably the only thing I'm happy about today, Cowboys did win in convincing fashion, although they could have probably put the game away far earlier against the disgusting Washington Redskins. I'm always happy every year, especially when it's on the road, going into their building and showing their bitch fan base that, you know, Washington fans, then your entire stadium is filled with Dallas fans. You go and you look at the crowd there, and there's blue peeking out of everywhere. Yeah, there's people in red too, but their fan base, you know, they may have a large fan base compared to the rest of the NFL, but they still they can't keep the Dallas fans out of their stadium. And it showed tonight. I heard plenty of cheers when the Cowboys were getting first downs or when they got turnovers and whatever. So those of you that are thinking, that the NFL fan bases have eroded all the way to the bare bones, I think that's a bit premature. I think that there's still plenty of people that are interested in watching the games. It's just those are the people that are able to tune out all of the ancillary bullshit, all of the political nonsense that is corrupting the NFL, that's turning it into a joke. And there's no better example than what happened today with, or I think it was Friday, with Bob McNair of the Houston Texans, when he called, he said that, excuse me, he said that you can't let the inmates run the asylum. Now, I think that, yes, that was a comment that it's been exaggerated, the meaning of it, because that's a common saying. I've heard it said over and over again in all sorts of different contexts. But McNair, knowing the way that it's been, the way this whole conflict has been going down of late, he has to realize you have to be extra careful about how you phrase whatever you're saying. It doesn't matter. Well, we're not talking about even political correctness. We're talking about political astuteness. And the way to go when it comes to dealing with these protesting athletes is to lay out your case like this. Look, we are here to entertain people. They're not coming to an NFL game in order to be lectured to. I'm sorry for whatever cause that you're trying to represent, but it's just not working this way. This is, whether you like it or not, this protest is actually harming your cause. It's getting more and more people to reject, the message of you and the other protesters. And in some cases, I think it's unjustified. I think some people are they're taking this opposition to the protest a little too far. Okay, I think the protest is kind of dumb too. At the same time, when you overreact and when you do things like you burn jerseys, or you go after players specifically, or there's people that they generally overreact. I've seen even people that call them ethnic slurs, racial slurs, whatever. That's not the way to deal with this. In fact, it'll only create further friction between the two sides. Some would say there's more than two sides, because there's also the boycott on the part of the Kaepernick supporters. But generally, look, there is an issue with the NFL where they have become politicized to the point where anything you say will be politicized. And Bob McNair's comment didn't need much. So the added element, I think, is that, first of all, yes, it is a common expression. It's heard very often in different contexts and connotations. That's fine. I don't have a problem with exactly what he said. The problem comes with the fact that he's talking about people that are basically his employees, people that work for him. And when they hear something like this and they hear him, I don't think that in reality the smarter athletes on the Texans believe that it's a racial issue, but I think that they do believe it's a respect issue. And when he says the inmates can't be running the asylum, he's trying to insult their intelligence as well. And that's why I think that Bob McNair is headed for some sort of long saga of trying to atone for whatever he said. People have already compared him to former LA Clippers owner Donald Sterling. I think that's very unfair, because what Sterling said was pretty disturbing and very prejudiced, and he has a history of doing it. Still doesn't necessarily justify taking the team away from him, but remember, these are people that work for him. They're people. Is it conceivable that the Texans would have walked off the field for it? There was talk of it. There was talk of the Texans walking off the field and forfeiting the game to to the Seahawks today. Instead, they ended up playing one of the better games of the past 10 or 15 years in general. So, look, I can't go and tell you that I support the players' protest, but in this case, yeah, Bob McNair didn't know what the hell to do when it came to addressing people that are in a state of moral indignation. Okay, so that's about all I have to say about that affair. There's a Jesse Jackson statement that all these NFL players, they went from picking cotton balls in the fields to picking footballs. That is one of the dumbest assertions I've heard. It may have rolled off the tongue very nice, but think about it this way: if that's true, then what is it? How is it that the black athletes, they're also on the field with white athletes, with athletes from the South Pacific? Troy Polamalu comes to mind. There's a bunch of other ones. Jesse Jackson injected himself into this controversy. Jesse Jackson should be ejected by force from the controversy. He's never contributed anything to racial healing. In fact, he went on TV, went and talked to, I believe it was Skip Bayless and Shannon Sharp, and he made it sound like he's some sort of elder statesman of race relations. Well, that would be true. If he's the elder statesman of race relations, he's the Hillary Clinton of them. He has lots of experience, but it's all bad experience. Who has he actually helped in his 50-plus years of public service? There's a lot of people who they've seen him come through their neighborhoods, take up their cause, and basically dump it when it was no longer media friendly. So with that, I think I'm going to conclude. I'm sorry I couldn't make this better, but this PC, believe me, it is. I have had it up to here, and on this tablet, it's almost impossible to work. There's other things I wanted to do tonight. I'm not going to get to do them, and I wasted so much time trying to get these to work. And it's every time, by the way. I probably would have a lot more content if it wasn't for this shit going on. So thanks for sticking with me. Those of you that are going to watch it, I'm going to release it later tomorrow. I haven't been able to upload the links because, again, I had everything on that other fucking computer, and it just, it just flaked out on me right when I'm trying to do work. Unbelievable. So yeah, have a great week. There were other things I wanted to talk about, but I'm so pissed off now that I can't even get to them. I can't segue. I can't concentrate. So hopefully the rest of the week will give a few more opportunities to just hash out some of the other topics I wanted to talk about. See my last Catalonia video. It's up, episode 15 of the Troll Tribune with Nuria and Umberto. And please share that with your friends and let me know in the comments below what you think about all the issues I brought up. Have a great night.